you're ready.
Okay, welcome to the regular Finance Committee meeting of December 7th. And Christina, who needs to do do you do the COVID-19 thing or whatever?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in the Governor Gavin Newsom's Order N-25-20, which allows public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to prevent the spread of COVID. At this time, it would be appropriate to conduct roll call, and I would ask the chair to recognize me afterward to confirm certain matters for the record. Chair Alone.
Here.
And Vice Chair Perkins.
Here.
I would now like to verify that all members of the committee can hear me well. All members of the committee have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call.
Yes.
And each committee member believes, based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise, that all persons to be a committee member are in fact committee members.
Yes.
Yes to all three.
And finally, as a reminder, any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Okay. I guess you want to talk about the preliminary audit results, right? Who's going to do that? Is that Candace or Eva?
Yes, that's me. I'm doing the presentation.
Okay.
Prior to the presentation, we do have public comment as well as approval of minutes on the agenda.
Indeed, we do. So we have some participants. Are there any members of the public here?
Looks like we may have one. For those in the audience, if you'd like to speak under public comment, please use the raise your hand at this time. It does not appear we have any requests to speak.
All right, I'll close the public comment period and go to the last meeting. So I guess I
move approval of the meeting minutes from, what was the date on that? November 9. I should know that. My wife's birthday. Okay.
I'll second that, and I guess you have to take go ahead, Christina.
Vice Chair Perkins.
Yes.
And Chair Alone.
All right.
Passes 2-0.
All right. Next item. Go ahead, Candace.
Good afternoon. You have before you the draft for the June 30th, 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's a requirement of state law that the city has to retain a qualified auditing firm to audit the financials on an annual basis. And as you know, we've contracted with Bailey most recently, and this is the first year of their audit, doing the CAFR for us. So going into some highlights of the audit, we'll be starting at page 5 of, not of the packet, but of my report. Excuse me, page 7 to 9 of the actual CAFR report. If it's confusing for you and you'd rather me go with the pages on the packet, I could do that.
It's fine.
Okay, so pages 7 to 9 has the auditor's independent report, which shows that we had a clean audit and then all material aspects, the financials were reported properly. Moving on to page 12, which is the statement of activities. Statement of net position, showing that we had an ending net position of 49.2 million, of which 376 was invested in capital assets, and we had 94.2 million, in restricted net position, and then 21.6 million was unrestricted. We had a decrease from the last fiscal year of 22.9 million. Which was primarily due to, on the asset side, increases in cash and investments, accounts receivable, OPEB contribution, which is under deferred outflows, which was offset by decreases in notes and loans receivable and pension contributions, which is listed under deferred outflows. And in the liabilities category, we had increases in long-term debt, deposits payable, the net pension liability, the net OPEB liability, pension earnings, which are listed as deferred outflows. That was offset by decreases in accrued payables, unearned revenue, compensated absences, and OPEB earnings, which was listed under deferred inflows. So the next page is page 13, which is the statement of activities. And this is showing by department all the functional activities and the tax dollars that are included, the revenue, sales tax, transient occupancy taxes, all the general revenues. And at the end, it also shows the net position, which ties to the other page of the 449 million, 0.2. Are there any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to page 15, which is a balance sheet for the governmental funds. Shows assets and liabilities and ending fund balance for all major funds and non-major funds. The ending fund balance for the general fund was 15.3 million. And the fund balance for all governmental funds was 109.6 million. So the next is page 17, which is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. So it shows revenues by source, expenditures by department, also transfers in, transfers out, and then your net change in fund balance. So for the general fund, the net change was 1.5 million, and the net change for the Doherty Valley Fund was a decrease of 500,000. Total net change for all governmental funds increased 21.8 million, which was primarily due to proceeds received for the new issuance of the COP for infrastructure projects. Next, we move on to page 20. And that's the statement of net position for the proprietary funds or the internal service funds, showing an ending net position of 12.7 million, which was a decrease of 200,000 from the prior year. Next is page 25, which is the statement of net position for the fiduciary funds, which includes the successor agency and the agency funds. So it's showing an ending net position. Excuse me, I think I skipped something. I skipped page, I think I skipped page 20. I apologize for that. No, actually I did, excuse me. So we are on page 25. Statement of net position for fiduciary funds, showing an ending net position of a negative 48.8 million, which is due to how the long-term debt is reported. So on this page, there's going to be a change in the long-term debt. The auditors told me today that there's an $8 million of accrued interest that should have been reported here for the debt that they're going to actually add before the final document is, before they finalize the document. It has no effect on any other part of the CAFR. It doesn't affect the general fund or any other funds. It's just this page here for the successor. So moving on to pages 38 to 44, which is note number 3 for cash and investments. This just still gives a detail of all of the cash and all funds, the investment. It also talks about the maximum credit risk, what the investment policy states in terms of minimum investments in certain categories, and all of that type of detail. And shows a total cash and investments of 115.2 million. The next page is 47, which is the capital assets, a detail of capital assets and infrastructure showing total capital assets of $404.5 million. And the next page is the long-term debt, which is on pages 48 to 50, showing long-term debt of $43.1 million, along with all of the details for each separate debt issue. Next page is page 52 to 53. This is the fund balance note. It's showing that the general fund had committed reserves, fund balance of $10.7 million, and which was reserved for revenue stabilization, and assigned revenues of $4 million for future expenditure volatility. And this was based upon recommendation by management partners who reviewed the general fund policy recently. Also includes the funds to calculate the reserves. Also included was the COP12 for combined $20.3 million of general reserve ending balance.
So what we did there on that piece under the policy, we wanted to just kind of have it reflect what the reserve policy. So we won't go looking for how much at any given time, what the reserve balance is. So we're just stating what the fund balance is, and it's easier to find because we have two funds that are combination of debt service and the general fund. So we spelled it out there, and that was one of the also recommendations from management partners.
Okay, moving on.
Simply to make it easier to read.
Exactly.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so moving on to pension plans, which is pages 54 to 65. And this is a detail of the Calpers pension plan and the city's proportionate share of the Doherty Regional Fire Authority. So that is new for this year. In previous years, we didn't show that amount, but now we've included that. The net pension liability was $38.8 million, which is an increase of $9.6 million from the previous year. The city's pension liability increased $4.8 million from the prior year. The remaining increase of the $4.8 million was DERFA share. So that made somewhat of a significant difference from last fiscal year. Showing it in a capital, however, we still, owed that money, even though it wasn't included. So next, we're moving on to pages 65 through 68, which is post-employment healthcare, or Opeb.
Excuse me, Candace, the DERFA thing, I mean, how much is that every year? It's like a couple $100,000 or something like that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's about, do you remember, Eva?
Their cost is probably, I want to say it's like $1 million. It's
Really?
getting up there, and that's why we had to start showing the pension side because it was small. At first, it was a surplus, so we never had to show it. And as time have gone by, like all other cities, that their pension liability just tripled. So we met with City of Dublin and recommended that we probably should be putting this in our financial statements, and they agreed. They didn't have it in theirs either. So this year will be the first time that they've included their pension and some portion of it, and we're including it in our CAFR also. But
These are
growing.
From when
DERFA, when they dissolved DERFA and they went in different agencies. So we still have to take care of the Opeb side, which is their retirees, medical until they, are no longer with us, and then that will go away. And I think there's still about maybe 9 people still in the retiree side, medical side. And on the pension side, you have everyone that is still working or still, even if they're retired, we have to continue to pay that until they're no longer on the books either.
And how long ago was that dissolved? Or when did San Ramon leave that?
I think they dissolved that back in, I want to say it was the maybe late 90s, early 90s. I know it was in the 90s.
I was gonna say in the 90s. It happened before 2000, I know that.
Yes, definitely before 2000.
Wow.
So, and since it grew so significantly, we wanted to put it on our books, and we mentioned it to our auditors, and they actually recommended it also.
Okay.
Okay, so next is moving on to OPEB, post-employment healthcare, which is pages 65 through 68. So this is just giving a detail of all the benefits, the liabilities the city has for health benefits for retirees based upon GASB statement number 3075, and the net OPEB liability was 1.6 million based upon the most recent actuary valuation. Next is pages 75 to 84, which is the required supplementary information. It's showing a schedule of pension contributions and OPEB funding progress. So next, after that, you have a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for all of the major funds. That's on pages 85 and 86. And the general fund came in 3.6 million better than budgeted. And the Doherty Valley came in 700,000 better than budgeted.
70,000.
70,000.
70,000.
70,000. Sorry about that. And then on pages 89 and 90, yeah, that's this is the statement for COP 13, the new debt issue, and for the capital improvement fund.
So why do you think it came in so much better than expected or budgeted?
For the general fund?
Yeah,
Or
in the Doherty Valley Fund, both. I guess the general fund.
Well, part of it is departments spending less money after, I know it was impacted by COVID. We had less revenues, but we also had less expenditures because less activities and things happened, specifically in parks and community services. A lot of their events were canceled, which, you know, was the majority of their budget.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So next page is pages 92 to 94, which is the balance sheet for the non-major governmental funds. Showing ending balance of sorry. Okay, yeah, 52.5 million. And then moving on to pages 95 to 97, that's the revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for the non-major funds. And the budget to actual comparison actually starts on page 98 of that. Are there any questions about anything?
No, we're good. General reserves of 24 million, which is about 50% of our operating. So
Yeah, a little bit
we're in
more.
good shape
Mhm.
for now.
Right. Well, that's all I have. If there are no more questions.
Do you need a motion for us to forward this to the council for their review?
No, normally we take it to council in the first meeting in January. We
Right.
do a
My question is,
presentation.
do you need a motion to do that?
No, we don't.
No. No,
don't.
this is just a requirement that we have some communication with the finance committee to let them know how the status of the audit. So we
Okay.
usually like to just give you the draft. So there are a few changes that are going to be made throughout the notes. You may have seen some yellow highlights in your packet. So those are either completed, but we just didn't remove the yellow highlight yet. So we're just working on that, but the numbers should not change at all. Only that one that Candace mentioned, and it only affected the successor agency. So it would only change on wherever the successor agency spreadsheets are or charts are. So the next step, as Candace mentioned, we will be presenting to the council, the full council, first meeting in January. Our auditors will come out and actually do a presentation.
Okay.
So
Good.
that's,
Good.
so you didn't have any questions throughout the whole document and on areas that we may not have covered? Because we just gave you the highlights, but if you have any questions on any other areas, we can answer those at this time.
The overall pension situation, the actuarial folks do their thing. Is that next year, Eva or Candace?
On the Opeb?
Or-
Yeah, or just on the Calpers piece too.
Well,
Or Calpers comes back with,
Yeah, they do it every year. So
Every
these are the
year.
numbers based on the
Okay.
most recent actuary that they did.
and
And
the
then
OPEB
OPEB
is,
is every 2 years.
right.
Yeah.
and the movement with Calpers was how much?
Say that one more
How
time.
much did the liability grow with Calpers?
You said 4.6, Candace?
Um,
I believe it was 4.6. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we included DERFA, so that was another 4.6. So it grew almost 10 million over the year.
Wow.
Our, we had some projections that this would peak in what, 26?
20 or either 25 or 26, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But we will be looking at that and bring that to you, kind of looking at the pension and at the 5-year forecast.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's real important to understand, and you know our trust, how that will play in that going forward, because there'll be an opportunity for us to hopefully use some of the trust to take some of the bite out of the pension.
How much is sitting in the trust at this point?
we have about 4.3 million.
Oh, okay. So 4.3 million and an increase of 4.6 million. But the DERFA thing's kind of a wild card.
Yeah. And we're working with the city of Dublin to strategize how we'll handle the pension. And one of the things that they want to do, or both cities wants to start making extra payments to kind of reduce the liability. So we may be incorporating that into the budget come next year.
Okay. Scott, do you have any other questions?
Done.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Lots. Oh, I do have a question. How is it to work with the new audit team? How'd that go?
Very good.
I know that's kind of disruptive whenever we change every 5 years, but how'd it go?
It went well. It takes normally longest the first year when they come on board for them to put everything together, but they're good to work with. They actually do some extra things that the other auditors didn't do to try to help me to prepare the MD&A, because they have different links in their workbooks that kind of help me out with the changes, the increases and decreases, and to automatically update the charts. So that was nice, but things have been going good.
And is this,
And our new,
The MD&A, that's coming with the final. So the MD&A, the transmittal, and the complete statistical section all will be in the final product.
and our whole new finance system, did it make it
Yeah.
easier, harder? Just more of the same? How's that work?
Well, I wouldn't say that it made it harder. About the same, honestly. That wasn't
Okay.
any more difficult, and I can't honestly say that it was easier. We still have to do the same amount of preparation, depending on what the auditors ask us for. They give us a list of things to provide. It's still about the same amount of work to get that information. So it was neither easier or harder.
Okay.
I mean, we do have, ways of getting everything out of Excel, Excel out of the software really easily now. So in terms of what they want, they always want things in Excel format. So we can easily pull that information and email it to them. When before we had to, it was very difficult getting things in Excel format. So in that respect, I could say easier, but the whole workload was about the same.
Gonna miss this, Eva?
No.
Like a toothache.
That part, no, not, well, I'm not as much involved in the audit. Candace and Vivian does the bulk of everything. I'm just on the back end kind of review. It's the budget process that I'm not really looking forward to because
You're getting out of town at a good time then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Eva and Candace and Joe, thanks a lot. You've been stalwarts throughout this, and this is one of my last official city meetings. So thanks very much.
we wish
And
You, and good luck with everything.
yes,
thank you very much.
for everything.
And I guess we are with that. Do we have any? We don't have anything else, right? Scott, you have a?
Yeah, one other thing. Hey, that Notre Dame football team is looking pretty good this year.
Yes, they. I was thinking about this. The fact that they aren't playing all over the country, I think, they're like only playing in the Eastern time zone. I think that makes life a little easier, and having the best quarterback in the country out for the game that they played, Clemson, didn't hurt. But, yeah,
Opinion on that one.
yeah, but I'm not gonna turn it down. That's for sure.
Nope.
All right.
Army Navy
All right.
this weekend.
Really?
Navy this weekend. It's being played at West Point. Being
Wow.
played at West Point this year.
Holy smokes. Oh, probably hasn't happened since the 20s or something.
I think you're right.
Holy smokes. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate it. And see some of you tomorrow night, I guess.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.